Hello there, I am so terribly sorry you have stumbled upon this pathetic excuse for a Nuzlocke run. This run is full of horrible, godforsaken, gut-wrenching, cringe-inducing mistakes that only this dim-witted trainer of mine could possibly have gotten himself into. Me? No. I am not the trainer. I am a robot Sentret. I'm basically a normal Sentret, except for that, yep. You guessed it. I don't have any arms. The dim-witted trainer of mine is the one controlling the buttons. Listen dude, I can assure you that, if it were me doing this run, I would have crushed it in half the time. Actually no, you're right. I can't crush it in half the time if he can't even beat it in the first place. To be fair, this isn't just any regular Nuzlocke. This is what they call a hardcore Nuzlocke. Now I know you're thinking, what could possibly be hardcore about Pokémon? But here's the thing, if your Pokémon faints, it's actually dead. Like forever. Also, you know how trainers are always using their annoying healing items? Yeah, you can't do that. Again, I know what you're thinking. Well that's okay, because I'll just level up my Pokémon super strong, so that there is no way they can lose. Think again. You aren't allowed to level up higher than the next gym leader's highest Pokémon. Playing with this set of rules along with the standard set of rules for Nuzlocking is an exhilarating way to play the game, offering you the chance to use mons that you would normally never consider and to come up with strategies you might not have normally thought of. If you have any questions about the rules being used in this playthrough, check the description of the video. So anyway, this idiot chooses Bagon as his starting Pokémon. This motherfucker isn't even that good until he turns level 50. I can only assume he's thinking that he will somehow reach late game and evolve his Bagon into a Salamence. From there, he would have access to the ability Intimidate. And one of the most powerful mons in the game, which would be extremely useful against the Elite Four, but like I said, let's see if he can even get to that point. If I were the one controlling the buttons, rather than being caged in my own personal hell, narrating this dimwit's shitty attempts at Nuzlocking, I would have gone with Totodile. A solid Pokemon to help breeze through the early stages of the game, and he actually reaches his final evolution at a somewhat attainable level. Level 30. But no, I guess we will have to wait until level freaking 50 for that thing to be more than average. Speaking of average, my madman of a trainer runs straight to the rival fight without giving his poor little bag on any experience in battling first. Right, he fought off a level 2 Zigzagoon, but he didn't bother to level up at all. It's like he's hoping to get lucky, hardly valuing poor Bagon's life. Luckily, since C. is complete garbage, he comes out of the first rival battle untouched and unpunished. Also take note how he didn't run into any Pokemon on Route 103 on his way to fight Brendan. That means he gets to use that route as a chance to catch a Pokemon. And since this is a randomizer, the Pokemon could be any Pokemon, as long as it is similar in strength to the Pokemon being replaced. And since this randomizer uses all Pokemons from Generation 1 to 3, there are many different ones that it could be. I am so excited, I can hardly wait any longer to see what it's going to be. Oh, it's a Silcoon. Well that's okay I guess, maybe it will come in handy later. On Route 102 he comes across a Pidgey, which according to my calculations, had a 4% chance of occurring. Pretty neat. Pidgey isn't an amazing Pokemon, but he is certainly cool to have on your team. On Route 104 he catches a Shroomish, which once evolved into Breloom, is a very strong addition to any Pokemon team. In Pebbleberg Woods he catches a Letterbit. Nice. After barely defeating the trainers on the way to Rustboro City, we catch a Mareep on Route 116. Mareep's final evolution is Ampharos, who has one of the highest base stat values in the game. This Pokemon definitely will come in handy later. After some more trainers, we catch a Nidoran, male, in Rusturf Tunnel. But for now, he gets sent to the box and forgotten about. Maybe my trainer will use him later. Poison types aren't all that good for Nuzlocking. Since there aren't any more eligible encounters before the first gym, it's time to start training. I've mapped out the progress of my trainer's journey so far, outlining what Pokemon he has seen and where, as well as the effort values that they give. That way, even a dimwit such as himself can train his Pokemon efficiently and bring out the full potential in his team. If you would like to know more about EVs or effort values, you can go ahead and Google that shit. My job is to narrate the run, not to educate you on something you should already know. Anyway, he trains up Bagon and Mareep in speed and special attack EVs. And he trains Pidgey, as well as Shroomish, in attack and speed EVs. On the surface, it might seem weird to give Shroomish attack EVs. But once Shroomish evolves into Breloom, it learns a lot of high-power physical damaging moves that become the core of the Pokemon's strength. It will pay off at level 22 once it learns Headbutt. For once, my trainer actually seems to know what they are doing. Now that everyone is trained up, it's time to head to the gym for our first major challenge. Other than my trainer himself. I forgot to mention that my trainer found two really good items. The first good item being King's Rock, which grants roughly a 10% chance to make the target flinch when using any move with no secondary effects. The second item is even better. Leftovers, which is extremely good for Nuzlockes. Any Pokemon holding this item will restore 1/16 of their hit points every turn. which would pair perfectly with Shroomis's Leech Seed and Absorb. Luckily, my trainer actually makes a good decision and equips Shroomish with leftovers before taking on the first gym leader. Now, since the game is randomized, my trainer really has no idea what he's going to go up against. In the base game we could expect 2 Geodudes and a Nosepass. Instead, the Pokémon can be any Pokémon with similar strength from generations 1 to 3. So, normally, he would know that a rock Pokémon would be coming out first and he could set up accordingly. The obvious choice would be Shroomish, a grass Pokémon. But, when you are going in blind, you have to think about things a little differently. However, Shroomish is still the best choice here for a couple of reasons. 1. It's holding leftovers, granting extremely reliable sustainability, and 2. It has Stun Spore, which can be used to help avoid damage when switching in a different mon. Not to mention it also has the move Leech Seed, which can be planted and help sustain your team even when Shroomish isn't in battle. Except for when you try to use it on another grass Pokémon. Don't try to use Leech Seed on grass Pokémon. For fuck's sake. You all probably thought I was over-exaggerating when I said my trainer was pathetic. Nope, this kind of stuff happens all of the time, so get used to it, I guess. Since my trainer wasted a move like a dumbass, he gets himself paralyzed. Luckily he isn't punished and is able to get off a Stun Spore of his own. The 2 angry mushrooms exchange some blows, but ours is slightly less angry since it is holding leftovers. Once he thinks the angrier Shroomish will go down to a gust, Pidgey gets switched in to finish the job. Next comes out Staryu, who hits a water gun doing just over 25% of Pidgey's HP. He doesn't plan on keeping Pidgey in, so he goes for a sand attack before switching to Fluffy. Staryu outspeeds Fluffy and gets in 2 hits before he can retaliate, but the wait is worth it and Staryu goes down to a super effective Thunder Shock. Out comes Roxanne's Ace, who also happens to have a Pidgey. This one seems a little bit slow though, it misses a tackle and goes down to a nasty critical hit Thundershock. Good job Fluffy, our trainer is going to need all the help he can get. And with that, the stone badge has been won. I know I forgot to mention that Mareep evolved into Fluffy. From now on I'll try to remember every time somebody on the team evolves. Oh well. Now that we have access to Cut, Nidoran Male comes out of the box and into the party. After he learns the move and we collect some items, it's time to head to a remote island with an old man we just met. Since there are like 15 different fishing and surfing encounters in this game, my trainer decides not to include them in his eligible encounters. He still counts fishing in towns though, so he picks up the old rod and sees what he finds in the water. It's a Cleffa. Unless we find a moonstone, this Cleffa will never be of use to us. So for now, it sits in the box. We head down to the first floor of Granite Cave, resulting in a Golduck. Unfortunately the Golduck ends up breaking out of several Pokeballs and ends up going down to Leech Seed. After making his way through the dark to deliver a letter to a stranger in a cave, he talks to the other stranger to take him across the ocean again. You can actually travel to Staleport before defeating the second gym, allowing you access to one more encounter on Route 110. So, my trainer heads to Route 110 and the first Pokemon he encounters is a Sentret. I guess this video wouldn't be complete if this didn't manage to happen. Thankfully, the Sentret is caught. With that being all of the encounters for now, it's again time to train. Technically, my trainer could also get another encounter in Staleport. But he decides to skip this for now. He heads to Route 116 to train up Shroomish, Pidgey, Sentret, and Nidoran Male in attack and speed EVs. Sentret evolves into Furret, Nidoran Male evolves into Nidorino Male, and Pidgey evolves into Pidgeotto. But, because my trainer is a Dumbus, which should already have been established, he accidentally overlevels his Pidgeotto. Into the PC he goes until the next badge is obtained. After training Fluffy and Bagon in special attack and speed EVs, it's time to take on the second gym leader, Broly. Let's take a look at the team. We will have Shroomish leading with leftovers, Nidorino Male with a King's Rock, Fluffy with an Oran Berry, Bagon with an Oran Berry, and Furret with a Silk Scarf, which boosts the power of normal type moves. Here we go, let's hope that he can do this without Pidgeotto. First out is Tropius, and he's probably missing Pidgeotto already. A couple of gusts would probably easily take this thing down. He decides to switch into Nidorino Male and go for the next best thing, super effective poison damage. He discovers it barely does a thing. He probably should have used Stun Spore with Shroomish before switching out, because now this thing is +1 special attack. Against all odds, 2 in 100 to be exact, Nidorino Male gets a critical hit and procs the poison effect. Wow. A couple more poison stings and the Tropius succumbs to poison damage. Next up is Execute, and now I know he definitely misses Pidgeotto. Overleveling that stupid bird might cost him the run here. This Exeggcute knows Confusion, which will 100% one-shot, so he brings out Bag onto the battle, who immediately gets hit with a Confusion, doing nearly 50% damage. He wants to use Bite, which is a dark type move and super effective to Exeggcute. But it's not going to kill unless he gets a critical hit. And Bagon could die to a crit on the next turn. He ultimately decides there has to be another way. Maybe he can get Shroomish in to set up a stun spore, from there he can bring in Furret and hopefully do enough damage to kill the Exeggcute. But it still might not be enough. He decides that to give himself the best chances of winning, he needs to make a sacrifice. And that sacrifice is Nidoran Male. He switches him in, fully expecting to get KO'd by a Confusion, but miraculously, the egg monster uses Leech Seed instead, opening up an opportunity for a Poison Sting, which procs poison damage. Absolutely insane. Nidorino Male dies. A hero in my trainer continues with the plan of bringing in Shroomish. Exeggcute misses a Hypnosis, and my trainer does something that we aren't going to talk about. Shroomish tanks a Confusion and retaliates with a Tackle, which procs Exeggute's Citrus Berry. This time, the Hypnosis lands, and the sack of eggs take poison damage, while the mushroom desperately tries to wake up. With Exeggute's health going into the yellow on this next turn, my trainer decides now is a good time to bring in Furret to go for the knockout. He goes for Fury Swipes, but it only hits 3 times. Poison damage means Exeggcute barely hangs on, and before Furret can get the kill with a quick attack, Broly uses a Super Potion. On the next turn, Furret outspeeds and gets a massive 5-hit Fury Swipe with a critical hit to just barely take out the Exeggcute. If Nidorino Male wouldn't have gotten that poison proc, there is no way any of this would be happening right now. Out comes Broly's last Pokemon, which is an Ekans. After a few more turns, the purple snake goes down and my trainer earns his second gym badge. It turned out that overleveling Pidgeotto was a big mistake because he definitely would have come in handy there. Fortunately, instead of a team wipe, only one Pokemon went down. Nidorino Male, you will not be forgotten. Unfortunately, since Nidorino Male was the only Pokemon that could learn Cut, my trainer misses out on a few items for now. Shroomish learns Headbutt right before the Route 110 rival fight, which is an easy sweep. Just so you are aware, we probably won't be showing every rival fight and boss fight unless they are interesting. We get to Mauville City, and for some god-forsaken reason, Wally the sick kid from Verdanturf Town wanted to challenge Watson with a level 16 Magikarp. We quickly put him in his place. Before taking on to challenge ourselves, we catch an Adu, who isn't too good, but my trainer adds him onto the team anyway. The next encounter was a Combusken, so that's kind of disappointing. Anyway, we train up our Pokemon, and while training, Shroomish evolves into a Breloom, who learns Mach Punch. My trainer also teaches Furret Rock Smash, presumably because Furret doesn't really learn any more good moves anyway. And with that, we're headed to the Poke Gym. Watson is known to be a run killer, especially in randomizers. So my trainer makes sure he's as ready as possible before the fight. Leading, he will have Breloom with leftovers, Pidgeotto with a King's Rock, Furret with a Silk Scarf, and Bagon with a Citrus Berry that we found on the ground. Since Orange Berries only heal 10 HP, they are essentially useless at this point of the game. So, he gambles between getting put to sleep, getting paralyzed, and getting poisoned. He decides to equip Fluffy and Not You with Pecha Berries to combat potential poison damage. Just as a side note before the battle begins, Breloom is certainly the hardest hitter on the team right now, with a whopping 81 attack stat, paired with having a brave nature, which gives a 10% boost to attack. Losing Breloom would be tragic. But, let's hope that doesn't happen and get into the battle. Watson leads with a Teddy Bear, who is a normal type, meaning Breloom can actually set up with Leech Seed this time. The bear evades and hits a Leer, dropping Breloom's defense. The next Leech Seed connects, and the Teddy Bear starts to cry, which lowers special defense for some reason. My trainer switches Breloom out to shake off the stat changes. Pidgeotto comes in and gets hit with more tears. Leech Seed is active, so my trainer is comfortable to keep switching to brush off the stat changes. Eventually he brings in Bagon, who gets hit on the switch in by a double striking Fury Swipes. Bagon sets up Focus Energy as Teddiursa lands another Fury Swipes, this time critting, leaving him just over 50% health. He uses a Headbutt, knocking all the stuffing out of this little bear. Out comes Poliwag, who outspeeds but misses a Hypnosis. Bagon retaliates with a Headbutt, leaving Poliwag in the yellow. But this time, the Hypnosis lands and Bagon falls asleep. For some reason, Poliwag goes for not very effective Water Guns instead of Double Slap. Bagon finally wakes up and knocks out Poliwag with a second Headbutt. Bagon levels up to 25, where he learns the move Ember, which is very convenient for the next opponent because it's a bug grass type, making it 4 times weak to fire type moves. On the same turn that Parasect is switched in, Bag on Citrus Berry activates, bringing it to full health. We get off an Ember doing about 1/3 before Parasect gets off a Stun Spore. With the paralyzed status, Parasect is able to outspeed Bag on and use Scratch, but he retaliates with a critical hit Ember to take it down. Very nice. Out comes Watson's last Pokemon. Overlevel. The gym leaders seem to like having the same Pokemon as my trainer this time around. Even though Bag on is paralyzed, my trainer decides to keep him in and go for the super effective Ember. But before that can happen, Breloom gets off a headbutt, which causes Bag on to flinch. With Bag on being susceptible to death on the next turn, it's time to switch him out. So he brings in Fluffy. Breloom goes for the Mach Punch and Fluffy's static ability causes paralysis. Which is convenient because he only brought in Fluffy to use Thunder Wave, so out comes Nadu. The enemy Breloom sets up a Leech Seed and Natu uses Peck, which does over half health. But of course, Breloom's Effect Spore ability procs and Natu gets poisoned. Thankfully my trainer equipped him with a Pekka Berry. The thankfulness doesn't last long though, because Breloom uses a Headbutt and combined with Leech Seed, nearly takes out poor Natu. My trainer knows that Breloom will likely die to one more Peck, and because Breloom is paralyzed, Nadu will surely outspeed. He knows it's risky, so he thinks about switching a different Mon in. But he must be worried that if he does, they might die to a critical hit Headbutt. So he decides to risk it and chooses Peck. What my trainer doesn't know is that whenever this Breloom is in kill range for a Mach Punch, he is most likely going to choose that. Also, Mach Punch always goes first. He could have easily switched in Pidgeotto to take the Mach Punch and from there outspeed and kill with the Gust. Oh well, my trainer is only human, and he can't have such incredible intellectual capabilities such as myself. Nadu goes down, and Pidgeotto comes in for all the glory. Rest in peace Nadu, off to the grave you go with all the other Pokemon my trainer has needlessly gotten killed. Regardless, the third gym badge is won. Natu gets put in the graveyard, and we head out to get our next encounters. But before that, we have to use Rock Smash, so that this dude can finally Rock Smash his girlfriend. We move on, and on Route 112 we catch a Coughing. And inside of a steaming hot cave we catch a water Pokemon, Slowpoke. On Route 113 we encounter a Linoone. In the base game, Linoone is actually capable of taking on the Elite Four entirely by itself. This was proven by the legendary Flygon HG. Who by the way, is magnitude 10 times better than my trainer. However, the strategy required for the Linoone sweep isn't really an option, because some of the TMs required aren't guaranteed finds. But, there are still ways to make it a good option. For now it goes into the PC. On Route 114 we catch a Shelter. Its evolved form, Cloyster, is actually pretty good, but we don't have a Water Stone, so we shall see him later. In Meteor Falls we come across a Jolteon, and actually manage to catch it. It's super cool, but Fluffy already fills the role of an electric type, so into the PC he goes. On our way back to the Mauville Poke Center, we get a Rock Smash encounter which is technically the first encounter on Route 111. It's a Pikachu, and he manages to catch it, but again, we already have Fluffy. Into the computer, you yellow rat. With that being all the encounters for now, it's time to start training for the Maxi fight. But before that, he slaughters an entire family's Pokemon team. And they reward him with a Macho Brace, which will speed up the process of gaining effort values. He equips it to our newly caught Coughing and heads to Pebbleberg Woods to bring her up to par with the rest of the team. And finally, it's time to fight Maxi. Believe it or not, he has actually wiped to this fight before, so he makes sure he's ready and confronts the misguided lava enthusiast. Even though I am a robot Sentret with artificial super intelligence, I cannot even begin to understand why my trainer chose to lead Coughing with leftovers. Thinking about it is practically frying my circuit boards. The only logical conclusion I have come to is that my trainer is a dumbass. Anyway, the fire-type trainer leads with a Poliwhirl, who outspeeds and chunks Coughing with a water gun. Coughing retaliates with a Sludge Bomb, proccing poison damage. Leftovers barely does a thing and my trainer switches in Breloom, who instantly gets hit with a Hypnosis. Poliwhirl gets off some not very effective water guns before Maxi cheats and uses a super potion. Finally, Breloom wakes up, but misses a 90% accurate Leech Seed. Poliwhirl goes for another 60% accurate Hypnosis, which hits of course. Poison is doing more damage than he can dish out though, and eventually Breloom wakes up and sets up a Leech Seed. Poliwhirl misses a Hypnosis, allowing Breloom to take it out with a Mega Drain. Out comes Maxi's strongest Pokemon, a level 25 Magmar. This thing is terrifyingly strong. My trainer doesn't have any checks to fire damage, besides Bagon, who is too weak at this point to be a viable option. He thinks about using Headbutt with Breloom and hoping for a flinch, but ultimately decides that's too risky. He brings in Furret, who gets hit by a Fire Punch doing nearly half. Risking a critical hit and a burn, my trainer uses a quick attack to try and get some damage in. It does a decent amount, but Magmar uses another Fire Punch, nearly killing Furret. Unfortunately, he needs to rely on Bagon, who gets hit by a fire punch on the switch-in. And even though Bagon has a resistance to fire damage, he still nearly loses half of his hit points. My trainer knows that he can survive another one, but he's risking a critical hit here. This Magmar is looking even scarier than before, so he decides he doesn't have any better options. He fumbles between using Bite and Headbutt. Magmar outspeeds, luckily leaving Bagon alive and well enough to retaliate with a Headbutt. Not wanting to sacrifice Bagon, he switches him out. This Magmar can outspeed everybody on the team, but my trainer thinks he might be able to bring in Pidgeotto, go for a quick attack, and get the KO. On the switch and he gets hit by a devastating fire punch, doing well over half. If this quick attack doesn't kill, Pidgeotto will die. Magmar is left with a sliver and Pidgeotto becomes poultry. Maxie cheats again and uses a super potion, and Fluffy goes for a Thundershock. Magmar of course outspeeds, but goes for a Leer, while Fluffy uses another Thundershock. On the next turn, Magmar uses Fire Punch, activating Fluffy's static ability, causing him to get paralyzed. This doesn't really matter, though, because he goes down to one last Thundershock. I have never seen my trainer look so relieved. Maxie's last Pokemon is a spider, who could have killed Fluffy if he was lucky enough to get a critical hit Nightshade, but thankfully that doesn't happen, and he uses a Thunder Wave to paralyze, switching into Breloom to use a Headbutt and win the battle. I thought my trainer was done for. He honestly got lucky. Rest in peace, Pidgeotto. After a delicious feast on top of Mount Chimney, my trainer heads down to Jagged Pass, where he gets another encounter. Clefairy. However, my trainer plays with something called the Species Clause. The Species Clause states that you can re-roll encounters if your first encounter is with a Pokemon that is in an evolution line that you already own. And since we caught a Cleffa in Dewford Town, we get another encounter, which is Numel. Numel evolves into Camerupt, which has solid stats and can learn the move Earthquake. For now he puts him in the box and fills the gap in the team with Slowpoke. He kind of needed a water type anyway. We get to Lava Ridge Town, and before taking on the gym, we receive an egg. My trainer then proceeded to, completely legitly, in real time, ride his bike back and forth inside of Lava Ridge Town so that he can use this egg as an encounter. After for what definitely was a few long hours, the egg hatches into Aerodactyl. Which is pretty insane, but he doesn't really learn any good moves on his own. So for now the dino resides in the computer. After debating for a while, my trainer decides that Bagon is just too garbage to be included on the team for the 4th gym. His stats are the worst on the team by far, so my trainer decides to sub him out and brings in Numel to the team. Numel knows the move Magnitude, which will provide ground-type coverage for the team, something that we were missing before. After EV training Numel in attack and HP, it's finally time to take on Flannery. Here's the team: Slowpoke with a Mystic Water, Breloom with Leftovers, Numel with Soft Sand, Mareep with a Cherry Berry, Furret with a Silk Scarf, and Coughing with a Cherry Berry. My trainer decides to lead Slowpoke, presumably because he can use Yawn as an easy setup move. Flannery leads with a Boltoy. My trainer knows this mon has self-destruct, he just has to be careful to not get it into the hit points range where it likes to use it. Or it could just use it right away. That's cool, I guess. With Slowpoke in the yellow and Weeping Bell coming out, my trainer switches in Numel. Weeping Bell puts him to sleep on the switch-in and pecks him with some not very effective acids, one of them dropping his defense stat. He decides to stay in and go for an Ember, but the Numel stays asleep for a 4th and final turn. With Numel being too unhealthy to battle, he switches him out for Coughing. Coughing gets hit by a weak acid on the switch-in, who replies with an extremely powerful Sludge. On the next turn, Weeping Bell uses Stun Spore, but Coughing's Cherry Berry heals him from paralysis. And the next Sludge easily takes her out. Next out is Magikarp. I guess. My trainer obviously uses self-destruct for the easy kill. Just kidding. He goes for a Smokescreen and switches into Breloom. Magikarp misses a tackle and we set up Leech Seed. On the next turn, the future Sushi Roll goes for a tackle, which actually lands through a Smokescreen and gets a critical hit. He's trying so hard. Breloom easily headbutts him for the one shot. Next up is Flannery's Ace. A level 29 Raticate. This thing is actually kind of scary. Hyper Fang is a really powerful move, and if this thing has the ability Guts, its attack power will be increased if it gets paralyzed, poisoned, or burned. But really he's no problem. Breloom outspeeds with a super effective priority Mach Punch, bringing the ugly rat into the red. And all it does is use Tail Whip. On the next turn, Raticate gets fully healed. But again, no problem, because on the turn that she healed, Breloom uses Headbutt. And on the next turn he's able to outspeed with another Mach Punch, winning us the Heat badge. That was my trainer's first Deathless Gym badge since the first gym. So props to him, I guess, but I can assure you, this isn't going to get any easier. Since Bagon evolves into Shelgon next level, he's going to get a bit stronger. Therefore my trainer puts him back on the team and lets Numel get some rest. From here there is very little my trainer has to do before heading to the 5th gym. While battling some trainers in the desert, Fluffy evolves into Ampharos and Bagon evolves into Shelgon, who learns the move Protect. He then proceeds to spend all of his hard-earned money on the TM Thunderbolt, which is 95 base power and 100% accuracy. He teaches the move to Ampharos, and since this Ampharos has been trained in special attack EVs, this is going to be a very powerful move. It's also worth noting that if my trainer hadn't found an amulet coin early on in the game, he probably wouldn't have had enough money to make this purchase. Another stroke of luck, I suppose. He also replaces Thunder Shock with the TM Shock Wave, a move that can never miss. Before preparing for the gym leader himself, my trainer decides to head into the gym to clear out some of the trainer battles. And the first one he battles happens to have a Cambript. He decides to go for Rock Smash with Furret, hoping to lower defense, but all it does is tickle the Camel. Cambript sets up a Focus Energy, and here my trainer thought it would be a good idea to switch into Shelgon, who gets hit by a critical hit magnitude 9, nearly ending all of Shelgon's hard work. Fortunately, my trainer is able to work around this Cambript by switching into Breloom to bait out Ember. From there he switches into Slowpoke and takes it out with a water gun. That was way too close, he's going to have to be a lot more careful going forward. None of the other trainers are too much of a problem though, and so my trainer starts to prepare. He teaches the HM Strength to Furret, which does 80 base power with 100% accuracy, another pretty strong move. From here he remembers that he never went through the trick room, so he teaches Cut to Linoon and does the first 3 rooms. In one of the rooms, he finds a second Leftovers. Leftovers is a pretty overpowered item, so my trainer always enacts a rule where only using one at a time is allowed. Fair enough. During the final training session before the gym, my trainer accidentally overlevels his Furret. Like a dumbass. After a long session of deep self-reflection, he brings in Numel as a replacement and after a short training session heads to the gym to face his absent father. Leading we'll have Slowpoke holding a Mystic Water, Ampharos with a Chesto Berry, Breloom with Leftovers, Shelgon with a Silk Scarf, Coughing with a Chesto Berry, and finally Numel with Soft Sand. Again, my trainer has no idea what he is going up against. He decides that being put to sleep would be worse than getting poisoned or paralyzed and equips Chesto Berries to combat sleep this time around. Let's get into the battle. Our absolute normie of a father leads with the Natu. Could he be mocking the death of my trainer's Natu? Who cares, we switch into Ampharos and get to one shot with Thunderbolt. Easy. Next out is an Electabuzz. Electabuzz outspeeds and hits us with a Leer as Ampharos retaliates with a Thunder Wave. From here, Numel gets switched in because he's immune to electric type moves and has the move Magnitude which will be super effective. The Electabuzz uses Swift, which does more damage than anticipated. Not wanting to risk a critical hit here my trainer switches him out for. Oh, never mind. He went for the Magnitude, leaving Electabuzz with a sliver of health. He gets paralyzed on the next turn and Numel uses another Magnitude. Norman's Hyper Potion and a low damage Magnitude results in Electabuzz being nearly full health again. Okay, now. My trainer switches into Breloom, and Electabuzz gets paralyzed. We set up Leech Seed and Electabuzz goes for Leer. We switch into Shelgon as Electabuzz gets paralyzed again. Shelgon stalls with a Protect as Leech Seed drains some damage. Shelgon gets off an incredibly weak Ember, and thankfully the Electabuzz is paralyzed yet again. Another Protect stalls the match and Leech Seed does some damage. On the following turn, Ember finally takes it down. Phew, if that dingus was hard to kill I can't imagine what the ace is going to look like. Norman's second to last Pokemon comes out, and it's a Nidorina. Right away Shelgon gets switched out for Ampharos, and our static ability causes Nidorina to get paralyzed. From here a single Thunderbolt gets the one shot. Ampharos, you're a beast. Norman's final Pokemon comes out. And it's… uh-oh. The Cambript. Hopefully my trainer knows how to deal with these by now. He switches in Coughing as Cambript increases his special defense. Coughing gets off a weak Sludge and gets hit with a takedown. We use another Sludge and Camel hits another takedown, and thankfully it doesn't get a critical hit with a high roll. Coughing survives and comes in Breloom. Breloom is actually a safe switch here because Trainer and Wild Pokemon always know their last 4 possible earned moves. And in this Cambript's case, it's Amnesia, Takedown, Focus Energy, and Magnitude. Therefore there aren't any Fire-type moves for Breloom to worry about. Kamerup sets up a focus energy and Breloom uses headbutt, leaving him with a sliver. But since he uses the move takedown, self-inflicted recoil damage takes him out. Wow. My trainer's dad is even more pathetic than he is. While Norman sits and deals with the fact that he just got outclassed by his 10-year-old kid, we run as far away from home as possible and head to Fortree City for the next gym battle. My trainer decides to make Numel a permanent part of the team and with the newly acquired HM, teaches Surf to Slowpoke. Meaning he now has access to a Petalburg City encounter. However, he decides to hold off on this until he can get a super rod. So he heads back up to Mauville City, where we can see Watson standing around. We ask him what's up, and he tells us that there's a dangerous situation at the local power plant. So naturally, he entrusts us, a 10-year-old kid, to go and handle the situation. He laughs maniacally, and we head out. At least this means we get access to another encounter. We head inside and capture a Clamperl. After doing the old man's job for him, we head back and get a reward, which is Thunderbolt. My trainer totally forgot that he gets this TM for free. Oh well, at least he has another one just in case the unthinkable happens. We surf on over to the other part of the region, where my trainer finds a Master Ball lying around. This may come in handy. On Route 118 we get our first encounter, Combusken. Oh, hell yeah. My trainer really wants to make him a part of the team, but we already have Numel's fire type and Breloom's fighting type. Into the PC for now. This part of the map is awesome because you get a few citrus berries. But also, the game starts to get a lot more difficult, so it's a double-edged sword. We head north avoiding as many trainers as possible. On Route 119 we catch a stupid painting monkey. And after clearing the Weather Institute, we receive a houseplant, I mean Bellsprout. But since this thing is technically another Route 119 encounter, my trainer releases it. On Route 120 our first encounter is a Golem. My trainer really wants to make it a part of the team, but its early learn set is kind of bad, and there isn't any room on the team right now. We get the Devon Scope from Steven, allowing us to see invisible Pokemons. There's an item on the other side of one of these invisible Pokemons, and so my trainer uses the Devon Scope, and it's a level 30 Raichu. Pretty cool, too bad it isn't our first encounter on this route, and we can't catch it, so my trainer just runs away. Ouch. And the item wasn't even worth it, just another leftovers. At least this means there's now room on the team for Golem. He's a pretty nice addition. He equips Golem with a Macho Brace and heads to Nidorino Mail Tunnel to train up attack EVs. Seeing the massive jump in stats is always so satisfying. Now that he's up to par with the rest of the team, he also teaches him the move Bulk Up and heads into the gym to clear the gym trainers. And during one of the double battles he gets poor Numel killed by a 4x super effective water pulse. Why didn't you switch out? You dumbus. With Numel dead he has to make a last-minute replacement with Combusken. So he equips him with a Macho Brace and starts to train. And within 2 minutes my trainer also gets this Pokemon killed. The wild Diglett outspeeds the chicken and gets an easy knockout with a magnitude 7. This wasn't even unlucky, this was just really bad. Diglett is a horrible Pokemon to train against, and you should avoid doing it at all costs. Not just because they are fast, but because they can have the ability Arena Trap. Arena Trap is an ability that locks you in, preventing you from switching out or fleeing the battle. You should always avoid training on Digletts in your Nuzlockes. Unless you have an item like Smoke Ball, which ensures fleeing from a wild Pokemon. With Combusken now down as well, my trainer brings Furret back onto the team. Welcome back you little organic imposter you. My trainer makes his final training preparations in the same area, this time equipping everyone with a Smoke Ball, which would have saved 2 of his Mons if he had been using it beforehand. And finally, we're ready to fight Winona. Leading is Slowpoke with a Mystic Water, Breloom with Leftovers, Golem with a Hard Stone, which boosts the power of Rock-type moves, Furret with a Silk Scarf, and Ampharos and Shellgon have Citrus Berries. Let's see how this goes. Winona sends out her Pokemon and it's a Bagon. Of course it is. Bagon opens up with a Leer, and Slowpoke uses Yawn. He then switches into Golem as Bagon sets up Focus Energy. But on the same turn, it falls asleep. Our Golem sets up Bulk Up 4 times, while Bagon stays asleep for the maximum amount of turns. On the 5th turn, the premature dragon uses a Leer, and Golem sets up another Bulk Up. making him now +5 attack and +4 defense. Bagon goes for an Ember, which doesn't burn, and Golem uses Magnitude, easily killing in one shot. Out comes Armaldo, who is a bug, rock type. Despite this Pokemon's typing, he actually can learn the move Water Gun. Which hits critically. Somehow, Golem manages to stay alive with 4 HP. Rock Throw connects and the Water type imposter goes down in one shot. Winona sends out Ludicolo. And my trainer sends in Breloom, who takes an Absorb. Breloom uses Headbutt, sending Ludicolo into the yellow as it retaliates with the Growl. The next Headbutt does less damage, and Ludicolo uses what I think was the most pathetic Swift I have ever seen. Leftovers keeps us healed up, but Ludicolo gets healing of his own as Winona uses a Hyper Potion. Breloom goes for another Headbutt, and a critical hit means that the sombrero, frog, pineapple looking thing? I don't know. But he hangs on with just a sliver of health. My trainer switches into Ampharos, and Ludicolo uses Astonish, which does literally 6 damage. Ampharos uses Thunderbolt to take it out. And next out is Butterfree, who gets electrocuted to death. Bye bye, Butterfree. Winona's last and strongest Pokemon comes out, and it's a Vigoroth. Vigoroth outspeeds and opens up with Slash as we clap back with a Thunder Wave, causing paralysis. This time Ampharos outspeeds with a Thunderbolt, doing about 75% damage. Vigoroth goes for another Slash, and our Citrus Berry activates, healing us for 30 HP. And at the same time, Winona gives us a perfect example of why you should never use orange berries at this point of the game, and goes down to the next Thunderbolt, winning us the Feather Badge. Before my trainer takes on the next gym, he has to go to Lily Cove and do a bunch of story stuff. On the way, he catches a Houndour on Route 121 and finds a Shell Bell on the ground, which heals a Pokemon for a bit of HP every time it deals damage. During a random trainer battle, he nearly loses Golem to a Swampert. And also our level 38 Dragon Pokemon finally learns its first Dragon-type move. He also heads to the game corner to purchase the TM Flamethrower to replace the weak 40 damage move Ember. Inside of the Safari Zone we catch Lunch. I mean a Swinub. Inside of Mount Pyre we encounter another Coughing, and since our previous one is no longer with us, we're allowed to catch this one. He also finds the TM Earthquake. Golem learns the move naturally in a few levels, but it's always nice to have a backup. On Route 123 this nice lady gives us Giga Drain, which gets taught to Breloom. We also catch a Swablu. Hooray. Soon after, Slowpoke finally evolves into Slowbro, gaining a massive boost in power. Inside of the Magma hideout our first encounter is a Hoothoot, who gets caught. Obviously. The Maxi fight isn't nearly as challenging this time around, but there was an extremely close call where Breloom survives a critical hit Mach Punch with 1 HP. Sheesh. Inside of the Aqua hideout, we catch a Doug Trio. And on the way out our Lily Cove encounter is an Igglybuff. Finally it's time to surf to Moss Deep City. We get there, and my trainer gets the super rod from the fisherman and heads down to the beach. He fishes up a Corsola, but accidentally kills it with the surf. Oh well. He then backtracks to Petalburg City, where he fishes up a Squirtle. If it were earlier in the game, and he didn't already have Slowbro, Squirtle would make a great addition to the team. And back in Staleport City, we fish up a level 40 Zankus, who is surprisingly terrifying, so my trainer just uses the Master Ball. Zangoose plays the same role as Furret and does it much better. So right away he replaces Furret and gets a spot on the team. My trainer heads to Nidorino Mail Tunnel to train Zangoose in attack EVs. And shortly after, heads back to Moss Deep to take on the double gym leaders. This time around we'll have Slowbro with a Shell Bell, Breloom with Leftovers, Golem with a Citrus Berry, Ampharos with a Lum Berry, which heals any status condition in battle, Zangoose with a Silk Scarf, and Shelgon with a Citrus Berry. Tatum lies a lead with an Alakazam and a Roselia, and my trainer sends out Slowbro and Breloom. Alakazam sets up Future Sight, and Breloom sets up Leech Seed. Roselia goes for the not very effective Giga Drain on Breloom, rather than the super effective. This might be because they've calculated a kill on Breloom and are going for that instead of the damage on Slowbro. Slowbro sets up a yawn and Breloom heals up. My trainer switches out Slowbro for Ampharos, and Alakazam uses Psychic, killing Breloom. I think my trainer forgot that Breloom was weak to Psychic type moves. Poor Breloom, you were a good Pokemon and deserved better than this. I'm sorry my trainer is a dumbus. With no time to grieve, Shelgon gets sent into the battle. Roselia uses Sweet Scent as Alakazam falls asleep from last turn's yawn. Shelgon uses Flamethrower on the Rose for about half before it puts him to sleep. Ampharos uses Thunderbolt on Alakazam who barely survives after Leech Seed takes effect. Future Sight activates and brings Shelgon down to half, and so my trainer switches in Zangoose. Alakazam uses a Hyper Potion and Roselia sets up an Ingrain. Thunderbolt comes out, doing pitiful damage. Alakazam wakes up and sets up Future Sight. Zangoose finishes off Roselia with a slash, and out comes Pidgeot. Thunderbolt and Leech Seed means Alakazam gets put into the red, and he gets healed up. One single slash from Zangoose puts him back into the red before Pidgeot gets off a Feather Dance, severely lowering attack. Ampharos strikes and takes out the bird and thankfully one shot. Politoed comes out and Alakazam gets healed, yet again. My trainer isn't sure if he can get the KO, and so he sets up Taunt on the Toad, preventing Perish Song. Thunderbolt leaves the Toad with a sliver confirming that he could have just gotten the kill. A Citrus Berry heals Politoed and Zangoose tanks a Future Sight. Slowbro gets switched in and Alakazam sets up another Future Sight. Politoed tries his best, but goes down to a Thunderbolt. Finally, a Thunderbolt and a Surf take down the Spoon Man. Even though victory was achieved, my trainer can't help but feel defeated at the loss of Breloom. Inside of the Pokémon Center, he deposits Breloom into the graveyard and takes a moment to remember the fallen. At this moment, my trainer makes an oath to Breloom and the others that he won't let them die in vain and continues on his journey. Breloom gets replaced with Aerodactyl and right away he starts training. Besides the earlier levels, he mostly trains in Fiery Path. I've recorded a strong population of Delibird and Sevipers in the area, and not only do they give attack and speed EVs, but they also give a very high amount of experience and makes grinding levels go relatively quickly. I know I said before that Aerodactyl's base learn set isn't great, and that's true. But he does have some pretty great base stats. At level 29 he learns the move Ancient Power, which is a rock type move with 100% accuracy and 60 base power. It also has a 10% chance of increasing all stats. Not very reliable, but it can be used as a potential Hail Mary setup. Once the reincarnated Dino's level is up there like the rest of the pack, his stats are looking really healthy. He has the highest speed out of anyone by far. Here's Aerodactyl compared with our previous top speedster, Zangoose. From here it's time to do a bunch more story stuff, and I think this time around I'll spare you most of the details. Here's everything that happened before the 8th gym that's relatively important. We own Team Magma in a double battle with Steven. We teach Dive to the Kanto starter and make him our HM slave. We lose Zangoose to Archie, who had 2 fucking Magmars. We catch a Boltoy. We catch an underwater Numel. We catch a Krabby. We catch a Rhyhorn. We catch a Torkoal. We catch a Dustox. I said, we catch a Dustox. And we catch a Phoebus. And they all get put into the PC. These guys are completely delusional. We wake up a legendary dragon. That same legendary dragon tells these 2 to STFU and GTFO. We obtain the HM Waterfall. We obtain the TM Rain Dance. We obtain the TM Dragon Claw. We replace Zangoose with Shellder. We evolve Shellder into Cloyster. And it learns Spikes. My trainer also teaches him Rain Dance and Rest. He almost dies. Aerodactyl also almost dies. Golem learns Earthquake. Shelgon gets taught Dragon Claw. Shelgon gets taught Double Team. And finally, the team is all trained up to level 46 and our trainer heads inside. This time we'll have Golem leading with the King's Rock. Slowbro in the backline with Leftovers, Cloyster with Never Melt Ice, Aerodactyl with a Sharp Beak, Ampharos with Shell Bell, and Shelgon with a Bright Powder, which lowers foes' accuracy by 8%. Juan leads with a Glalie and my trainer switches in Cloyster as it goes for a Protect. It gets off another one, but Spikes is a setup move and isn't affected. The Glalie tries to go for a third Protect, and my trainer sets up a Rain Dance. It keeps using Protect for some reason, and Cloyster sets up 2 more rounds of Spikes, and finally the Ice Horns do some damage with the Crunch. My trainer switches in Golem as Glalie tries to use another Protect. It uses, you guessed it, Protect, and negates an Earthquake. On the next turn, Glalie outspeeds and hits Golem with an Ice Beam, which is super effective. Thanks to Golem's sturdy ability, he can't die in one shot, even if it were to critically hit, meaning he can still get off an Earthquake here. Unless he gets frozen solid, which only has a 10% chance of occurring. Slowbro comes in and takes a resisted Ice Beam. Glalie outspeeds and gets off a super effective Crunch, which thankfully only does about 40 damage. Slowbro sets up with an Amnesia, as Glalie uses another Crunch, doing half the amount of damage as before, but this time it lowers special defense. He uses Yawn, and switches into Ampharos. Glalie uses Crunch again, lowering special defense, but also getting paralyzed from making contact. Ampharos sets up a light screen, and Ice Beam doesn't do much. From here, 2 Thunderbolts are able to finally take it out. Next up is Ursaring, who gets damaged from Cloyster's Spikes on the way in. Aerodactyl gets switched in and gets hit by Slash, and he responds with an Ancient Power, which actually procs the stat boost effect. Also a 10% chance of happening. The Bear Scratches are Rock Bird, light screen wears off and Aerodactyl finishes him off. Next up is Miltank. Aerodactyl flies up high and Miltank misses a rollout. Fly damage brings the count to the red, and even though rollout is super effective, thanks to the Ancient Power stat boost it barely does a thing. Ancient Power takes it down on the next turn. Second to last is a Houndoom. Juan's strongest Pokemon, who goes down in one shot thanks to Spikes and an attack, boosted Ancient Power. Last is Fortress, and Arrow uses Flight, while it goes for takedowns. Juan uses a Hyper Potion, but Arrow easily outspeeds and 2 wing attacks take it out, winning my trainer his final gym badge. Now all that's pretty much left to do is go through Victory Road and take on the Elite Four. I never actually thought it would happen, but Little Bagon actually made it to the end game. The little buddy who we actually had to bench at one point due to being too garbage now becomes one of the best Pokemon in the game. Salamence. The last time my trainer did this run, he actually also had a Salamence, who went down to the champion's final Pokemon, resulting in a full team wipe. So don't think that just because he has this Mon, that the game is automatically won. Because, I can assure you, with this trainer of mine, that is definitely not the case. Before the Wally fight my trainer spends most of his money to teach Cloyster Ice Beam. But partially because my trainer is a dumbus, and partially because Jinx is an asshole, Cloyster goes down to Wally. Wally. My trainer lost a Pokemon to Wally. The guy who wanted to challenge a gym leader with a Magikarp. I know, pathetic. Anyway, he replaces Cloyster with Torkoal, endures a long session of training, and heads back to Evergrande City. He gets through the rest of Victory Road without any issues, except for a minor incident involving the death of an HM slave. Whoops. Regardless, after an excruciating journey, we made it to the Pokemon League. Here's a final look of all of the fallen soldiers as well as the unwanted encounters. Before heading inside, he teaches Aerodactyl Earthquake. Because that's a thing for some reason. As well as Aerial Ace. Also, the very useful TM, Calm Mind, gets taught to Slowbro. And the setup move Sunny Day gets taught to Torkoal. Here's the team after all final preparations. Feel free to pause the video if you want to take a closer look at anything. I think for the entirety of the Elite Four, I'm just going to sit back and refrain from making any comments. It's too hard to watch, and I won't have anything nice to say. So grab a snack, sit back, and enjoy the battles. And with that, let's enter the Elite Four. Wait. Okay, now. Let's enter the Elite Four. Okay, I know I said that I wasn't going to make any comments, but that was so fucking stupid. He could have just used aerial ace and easily got the one shot. I'm not sure what he was thinking there, maybe he was anticipating a counter and wasn't confident about the one shot. And he overestimated the damage from ancient power. Arrow was his fastest and strongest Pokémon. Hopefully he can beat the rest of the Elite Four in the champion without him. I have a bad feeling about this. Well, Slowbro just soloed Phoebe. This Slowbro has a modest nature, giving it 10% boost in special attack. And if it can set up a few calm mines, it's pretty much guaranteed to one-shot anything. Dumbus. Well, to my surprise my trainer actually beat the final Elite Four member. Now all that's left is the champion. Let's hope that we don't have another repeat of last time. Oh man, I can barely watch. Wallace's last Pokemon comes out and it's a Torkoal. He switches into Salamence to go for an Intimidate, but the ability White Smoke prevents it from happening. At this point my trainer decides to have some fun and brings out his own Torkoal to the battle. He goes for extremely weak body slams, hoping to proc paralysis. And eventually it happens. Our Torkoal gets outclassed, and so my trainer switches in Golem, who hits a very weak super effective earthquake thanks to all of its defense boosts. With Golem on the brink of death, he finally does what he was born to do and explodes all over the battlefield, winning my trainer the championship and the run. Never mind. Our starter Pokémon comes out for the last and final hit, winning us a poetic victory over the champion. As much as I hate my trainer, it is nice to finally see him win for a change. And if you actually watched the whole video up until this point, that's awesome. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more Pokémon Hardcore challenges in the future. Robot Sentret signing off.